Nobody tells you that working harder is sometimes the slowest path to wealth. You put in more hours, pick up extra shifts, take on another client, and at the end of the month, the number in your account barely moves. That's not laziness talking. That's just how active income works. Every dollar you earn requires you to show up again tomorrow. Stop showing up, the money stops too. That's the whole structure. And most people never question it because they were taught that effort equals income, which is true, up to a point. After that point, it starts working against you. There's a ceiling on how many hours you can sell in a week. There's no ceiling on how many times a dollar can work for you. That gap between your time and your money's time is where wealth actually builds. Most people are so busy filling hours they never set up anything that runs without them. Not because they're not smart, because nobody walked them through the other side of this. So, let's go through the systems that actually generate wealth without requiring your constant presence. Not get-rich schemes, not overnight flips, actual mechanisms that compound quietly over time. The first one almost everyone overlooks is ownership over employment. When you work for someone, you get paid once for that effort. Done. When you own a piece of something, even a small piece, you get paid repeatedly. That's the core difference. Labor is transactional. Ownership is structural. A share in a profitable business, a rental unit, a licensing deal. These pay without clocking in. Most people spend their whole career building someone else's asset base. Worth noticing. The second mechanism is dividend-generating assets held long enough to matter. Not day trading. Not timing the market. Just owning pieces of businesses that pay you to hold them. Over a long enough timeline, with consistent reinvestment, the compounding math becomes hard to ignore. A $10,000 position generating 4% annually doesn't sound dramatic at year 1. At year 15, with reinvestment, the numbers look completely different. The growth isn't from genius, it's from time and patience and not touching it. Third is real estate cash flow, not appreciation. People confuse these two constantly. Appreciation is what happens to the price. Cash flow is what lands in your account monthly. A property that breaks even on appreciation but generates $400 a month in net rent still builds wealth. It builds it slowly, quietly, without requiring your daily attention after setup. That setup cost, the research, the financing, the management structure, is real and significant. But once running, it runs. That's the distinction worth understanding. Fourth is building something once that generates revenue repeatedly. A digital product, a course, a template, a tool, a piece of content that keeps getting found. The economics here are unusual. You do the work once. The asset keeps producing. Not every attempt at this works. Most don't. But the ones that do operate on a completely different logic. You're not selling your hours. You're selling something you already made. Fifth is licensing. If you have a skill, a process, a design, a system, it may have licensing value. Companies pay for the right to use things they didn't build. Most people never explore this because it requires thinking of your own work as an asset. Sixth is royalties. Books, music, photography, patents. All generate income on a per-use basis. The upfront work is real. The ongoing income is disconnected from your ongoing effort. Seventh is building a small business to a point where it runs without your daily involvement. This one is harder than it sounds. Most small businesses are just a job with extra paperwork. But structured correctly, with systems, delegation, and repeatable processes, they can become actual assets. The goal is to be the owner, not the operator. Very different financial realities. Eighth is automated investing through index funds or similar broad market instruments. You set a consistent contribution, automate the transfer, and don't make emotional decisions. The work is mostly in the setup and in not reacting when markets move. Most of the damage in retail investing comes from people doing something when they should do nothing. Ninth is peer-to-peer lending, or private notes where your capital earns interest instead of sitting flat. Higher risk than a savings account. Needs to be understood before it's used. But the mechanism is simple. Your money lends, borrowers pay interest, you collect the spread. 10th is equity in early-stage companies, either through direct investment or platforms that allow fractional access. Most of these fail. That's not a warning to avoid it. It's a condition to price in correctly. One outcome that works can offset several that don't. That's the math behind the model. 11th is building an audience. Not for vanity, for leverage. An audience is an asset that can be monetized through sponsorships, products, affiliates, or direct offers. The irony is, people spend years building follower accounts and never convert them into actual income streams. 12th is systematic real estate through REITs. Real estate investment trusts for people who want property exposure without landlord reality. You own a share of a portfolio of properties. They manage. you collect distributions. Not perfect, liquidity, fees, and tax treatment all need to be understood, but the access point is low. 13th is creating systems inside your existing job that free your time for wealth building activity outside it. Most people treat their job and their wealth building as separate tracks. They don't have to be. If you can reduce decision fatigue, automate your savings, and protect your off hours, you gain real compounding time. 14th is geographic and tax efficiency. Legally structuring where and how you hold assets. This isn't offshore fantasy. It's understanding depreciation, deductions, account types, and timing. A dollar saved on taxes is a dollar that compounds. That arithmetic is boring and very real. 15th is time arbitrage, doing high-value work in concentrated bursts rather than constant presence. Not every hour of effort produces equal output. Most productive people already know this. The shift is intentional. Protect the hours that build assets, reduce the hours that just fill time. Now here's what most people miss when they hear a list like this. They think the goal is to pick one and execute it perfectly. That's not how it works for most people who actually build lasting wealth. They usually have 2 or 3 of these running at different scales, at different stages. One generates income now. One is being built. One is compounding quietly in the background. The combination creates stability. Any single stream is fragile. Layered streams are not, and the entry point for most of these is lower than people assume. You don't need a large inheritance or a startup exit to begin. You need a consistent surplus, even a small one, directed into something that works without you. That surplus doesn't appear magically. It usually requires cutting something, earning more, or both. But once it exists, the question becomes where it goes. Most people let it disappear into lifestyle. The ones who don't are the ones who end up in a structurally different position 5 years later. Not because they worked harder, because they stopped letting every dollar they earned require another hour to replace it. One more thing worth saying. Clearly, none of these systems are passive on day one. They all require setup, research, initial capital, or some form of concentrated early effort. The word passive is misleading. What these systems offer is delayed effort, not zero effort. You front-load the work, then the work starts working. That's a very different deal than what most people are currently running. Most people backload everything. Work harder later, save more later, figure it out later. And later has a way of not arriving on schedule. The practical reset is this. Identify which of these mechanisms fits your current financial position. Not all of them. Not the most exciting one. The one that's actually accessible to you right now. Start there. Build the first stream until it's stable. Then add the next one. Wealth built this way isn't dramatic. It doesn't make a good story for a dinner party, but it compounds. And compounding, given enough time, tends to make everything else look slow. The question worth asking yourself tonight is simple. How many of your dollars are currently working while you sleep?